The lake was a mirror, reflecting the dying light of a Montana sunset, and I stood on the dock, heart pounding like it was trying to break free. My neighbor Marcus, the guy who'd been a quiet mystery since he moved in next door, had invited me fishing, alone. I didn't know why, but the way his dark eyes lingered on me when he asked felt like a hook sinking deep. I'm Elliot, 28, a graphic designer who fled Seattle's noise for the quiet of Whitefish, Montana. I wanted simplicity, clean air, open skies, and a life where I didn't have to hide who I was. Back in the city, I'd buried my truth under late-night design deadlines and casual flings that never lasted past breakfast. Out here, I thought I could breathe, maybe even figure out who I was supposed to be. But Marcus, 32, with his guarded smiles and calloused hands, was stirring something I wasn't ready to face. He'd shown up at my door that morning, leaning against the frame, his denim jacket slung over one shoulder. "You ever fish, Elliot?" His voice was low, like he was sharing a secret. I hadn't, not really, but the way he said my name made me say yes before I could think. Now, here we were, standing on this rickety dock, the air thick with pine and the weight of something unsaid. Marcus handed me a fishing rod, his fingers brushing mine for a split second longer than necessary. "You gotta feel the water," he said, eyes fixed on the lake. "It's not about catching anything. It's about listening." I nodded, pretending I understood, but my focus was on the warmth lingering where his hand had been. We climbed into the rowboat, its wood creaking under our weight. Marcus rowed us out, his movements steady, practiced. I watched the muscles in his arms flex, the way his jaw tightened when he thought I wasn't looking. He'd been a stranger just weeks ago, a mechanic who kept to himself, living in the cabin next to mine. But there was something about him. The way he'd nod hello when we passed, the quiet way he'd fix my mailbox after a storm without being asked. Small things that added up to a question I was too scared to ask. The boat rocked gently as we settled in the middle of the lake. The world felt far away. No cars, no phones, just the lap of water and the occasional cry of a loon. I cast my line, clumsy, the lure plopping loudly into the water. Marcus laughed, a soft sound that made my chest ache. "You're gonna scare the fish, city boy." "City boy," I shot back, grinning despite myself. "I've been here 6 months. I'm practically a mountain man." He raised an eyebrow, his lips twitching. "Sure you are. Bet you still check for Wi-Fi in your sleep." I laughed, and for a moment it was easy. Just 2 guys, a boat, and a lake. But then his expression shifted, like clouds moving over the sun. He set his rod down, hands resting on his knees, and looked at me. Not through me, but into me. "Elliot," he said, his voice quieter now. "There's something I need to tell you." My stomach twisted. The air felt heavier, the lake too still. I wanted to crack a joke, to keep things light, but the look in his eyes stopped me cold. It was raw, unguarded, like he was about to hand me something fragile and hope I wouldn't break it. "What is it?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He took a breath, his hands clenching. "I didn't move out here just to fix cars or fish. I came to Whitefish to start over, to be honest about who I am." His gaze held mine, steady but nervous. "I'm gay, Elliot, and I think I'm falling for you." The words hit like a stone dropped into the lake, ripples spreading through the silence. My heart raced, not from fear, but from the sudden clarity of what I'd been dodging since I met him. I'd spent years hiding from myself, from others, but here, in this boat, there was nowhere to run. "Marcus," I started, but the words caught in my throat. I wanted to say I felt it too, that his quiet presence had been pulling me in since day one. But I'd never said those words out loud, not to anyone, not even to myself. Before I could finish, a sharp tug on my line jolted me. The rod nearly slipped from my hands, and Marcus lunged to steady it, his hand over mine. "Easy," he said, his voice soft but firm. "You've got something." We pulled the fish in together, a trout, silver and thrashing, its scales catching the last of the sunlight. For a moment, we were just two guys laughing over a fish, but his confession hung between us, waiting. I knew this was the moment. Say something or let it slip away. As we released the trout back into the lake, I looked at him, my heart pounding. "Marcus," I said, my voice steadier now, "I think I'm falling for you too." His eyes widened, a flicker of hope breaking through the guarded wall he'd built. But before he could respond, a distant rumble of thunder rolled across the sky. The air shifted, heavy with the promise of a storm. We rowed back to shore in silence, the weight of our words settling into something new, something terrifyingly real. Back on the dock, raindrops began to fall, cold and sharp. Marcus grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the path to our cabins. "Come on," he said, his voice urgent. "We need to talk." The rain came down in sheets by the time we reached Marcus's cabin, soaking through my flannel and his denim jacket. Inside, the air smelled of cedar and motor oil, a mix that was somehow comforting. My pulse hadn't slowed since the boat, since I'd admitted something I'd never dared say aloud. Marcus tossed me a towel, his eyes avoiding mine as he busied himself starting a fire in the small stone fireplace. The silence was loud, filled with everything we hadn't said yet. I dried my hair, watching the way his hands moved, deliberate, steady, like he was trying to anchor himself. "Want coffee?" he asked, his voice rough, like he was testing the waters. "Sure," I said, sitting on the edge of his worn leather couch. The cabin was sparse but warm. A few books on a shelf, a toolbox in the corner, a framed photo of a younger Marcus with a group of friends, all grinning under a desert sun. I wondered who they were, what life he'd left behind. He handed me a mug, his fingers lingering near mine again. "You okay?" he asked, sitting across from me in an old armchair. The firelight cast shadows across his face, making his dark eyes look deeper, more searching. I nodded, but my chest felt tight. I've never done this. Said it out loud. I took a sip of coffee, scalding my tongue but barely feeling it. Back in Seattle, I kept things casual. Never let anyone get close enough to matter. Marcus leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Why not?" I laughed. Bitter. Fear mostly. Growing up, my dad wasn't exactly open-minded. Called people like me confused. I learned to keep quiet, to blend in. Moving out here was supposed to change that, but I guess I brought the fear with me. He nodded like he understood more than I'd said. "I get it. My family's old school, too. Grew up in Arizona, where being out wasn't an option. I spent years fixing cars, keeping my head down, pretending I didn't feel what I felt." His voice softened. "But pretending gets heavy, Elliot. It wears you down." The fire cracked, sending sparks up the chimney. I wanted to ask him everything. Why he'd left Arizona, why he'd chosen whitefish, why me, but the words felt too big. Instead, I said, "What changed for you? Why tell me now?" He looked at me, his gaze steady. "Because you're different. You look at the world like you're trying to figure it out, not just pass through it. And when I saw you on that dock, fumbling with that fishing rod," he smiled, soft and real, "I couldn't keep it in anymore. My face burned, and not from the fire. I set my mug down, my hands shaking. Marcus, I don't know how to do this. Be us. What if I mess it up? He stood, crossing the small space between us, and sat beside me on the couch. You won't, he said, his voice low but certain. We'll figure it out together. His hand found mine, warm and rough, and for the first time I didn't pull away. The rain pounded outside, but in here it was just us. Two guys, scared but willing to try. I leaned closer, my shoulder brushing his, and felt the world shift just a little. But the next morning, reality crashed in. I woke to a text from my sister, Lila, who was visiting Whitefish for the weekend. Heard you're hanging with the neighbor. It read, people are talking, L. Be careful. My stomach sank. Whitefish was small, and small towns had long memories. I'd seen the looks at the local diner when two guys sat too close. Heard the whispers about city types moving in. Marcus and I weren't just risking our hearts, we were risking our place here. I showed him the text over breakfast, my hands still clutching the phone. His jaw tightened, but he didn't look surprised. This happen a lot? I asked. Enough, he said, pushing his eggs around his plate. Back in Arizona, I lost friends when I came out. Some people don't take kindly to it. I wanted to say it'd be different here, but Lila's text sat heavy between us. What do we do? I asked. He looked at me, his eyes fierce. We don't hide, Elliot. Not anymore. His words lit something in me, but fear still gnawed at the edges. That afternoon, we walked into town together, shoulders brushing, ignoring the stares from a few locals outside the hardware store. I felt exposed, like every eye was judging us. But Marcus's hand grazed mine, a quiet reminder that we were in this together. By evening, we were back at the lake, fishing again, but the mood was different, charged, like the air before a storm. You ever think about leaving? I asked, casting my line. Starting over somewhere bigger, where no one cares? He shook his head. I like it here, the quiet, the lake. And now you. His voice was soft, but it hit me hard. I wanted to believe we could build something here, but the weight of the town's eyes felt heavier than ever. The next day, Lila showed up at my cabin, her arms crossed and her brow furrowed. She was 25, sharp as a tack, and fiercely protective since we were kids. Elliot, what's going on with you and Marcus? She asked, not wasting time. The kitchen smelled of the coffee I'd brewed to calm my nerves, but it wasn't working. I leaned against the counter, avoiding her eyes. We're figuring it out, I said. It's new. She softened, but only a little. I'm not saying it's wrong, Elle. I just know how places like this work. People talk. Some of them aren't kind. I know, I said, my voice tight, but I'm tired of hiding, Lila. I've done it my whole life. She sighed, sitting at my small kitchen table. I get it. I do. Just be ready. Not everyone's gonna be happy for you. Her words stuck with me as I met Marcus later at the lake. He was already in the boat, tying a new lure to his line. His smile faded when he saw my face. What's wrong? I told him about Lila's visit, about the whispers in town. His expression darkened, but he didn't flinch. Let them talk, he said. They don't get to decide who we are. I wanted to believe him, but doubt crept in. That evening, we went to the local diner. A bold move I wasn't sure I was ready for. The place was packed. Loggers, families, a few tourists. We sat in a booth by the window, our knees brushing under the table. I felt every glance, every pause in conversation around us. Marcus ordered a burger, his voice steady, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. Halfway through dinner, A guy from the bar, big, bearded, wearing a Carhartt jacket, walked over. "You two new in town?" he asked, his tone more curious than friendly. "Moved in a while back," Marcus said, meeting his gaze. "Just keeping to ourselves." The guy nodded, but his eyes lingered on our hands, too close on the table. "Folks round here like things a certain way," he said, then walked off. The words weren't a threat, not exactly, but they left a chill. Outside, Marcus grabbed my arm, his grip firm. "Don't let him get to you," he said. "People like that, they're scared of anything different." But it wasn't just him. Over the next few days, the stares grew bolder. A note appeared on my truck one morning. "Keep it private. No signature, just block letters in black ink." I showed it to Marcus, expecting him to brush it off, but his face hardened. "This is my fault," he said. "I pushed you into this." "No," I said, grabbing his hand. "I chose this. I chose you." He looked at me, his eyes searching, and for a moment, I thought he might kiss me right there in my driveway. But he just squeezed my hand and let go. "We need to be smart," he said. "Not for them, for us." That night, we stayed in, cooking dinner together in his cabin. The simple act of chopping vegetables side by side felt like a rebellion, a quiet claim to something normal. But as we sat down to eat, a loud knock rattled the door. My heart sank. Marcus opened it to find Sheriff Carter, a gray-haired man with a no-nonsense stare. "Evening," Carter said. "Got a call about a disturbance. You boys all right?" "There's no disturbance," Marcus said, his voice calm but edged. "Just having dinner." Carter's eyes flicked to me, then back to Marcus. "All right, just keep it down." He tipped his hat and left, but the message was clear. We were being watched. After he left, Marcus slammed the door, his hands shaking. "This is what I was afraid of," he said. "I thought Whitefish would be different. I thought I could be free here." "You are," I said, stepping closer. "We are. They don't get to take that from us." He looked at me, his anger softening into something raw. "You really believe that?" "I'm trying," I said, and I meant it. For the first time, I wasn't just running from fear. I was fighting for something worth having. The next week was a tightrope walk. Marcus and I kept our distance in public, but behind closed doors we were building something real. Late nights talking by the fire, sharing stories we'd never told anyone else. He told me about his life in Arizona, how he'd come out to his parents only to be met with silence, how he'd left after a friend outed him to his boss, costing him his job. I told him about Seattle, about the loneliness of hiding in plain sight, about the ache of wanting more but never knowing how to ask for it. But the town wasn't done with us. At the hardware store, I overheard two men talking about the new guys and how they didn't fit in. At the post office, a woman I'd never met gave me a cold stare when I picked up a package for Marcus. The pressure was mounting, and I felt it in every glance, every whispered word. One evening, Marcus suggested we go back to the lake. "We need to get out of here," he said, his voice tight. "Just for a night." I agreed, desperate for the quiet of the water, the space to breathe. We rode out under a sky heavy with stars, the air cool and sharp. Marcus didn't fish this time, he just sat, staring at the water. "I thought I could handle this," he said finally. "The looks, the notes, but it's wearing me down, Elliot. I don't want to drag you into this." "You're not dragging me," I said, my voice firm. "I'm here because I want to be." He looked at me, his eyes glistening in the moonlight. "What if it gets worse? What if they don't stop? Then we face it together," I said, reaching for his hand. "I'm not running, Marcus. Not this time." He squeezed my hand, his thumb tracing slow circles on my skin. For a moment, it was just us, the lake, and the stars. But when we got back to shore, reality was waiting. A group of guys stood by the dock, their laughter dying as we approached. One of them, the same bearded guy from the diner, stepped forward. "You two spend a lot of time out here," he said, his voice low. "Folks are starting to wonder." "Wonder what?" Marcus asked, his tone sharp. The guy shrugged, but his eyes were hard. "Just saying. Small town. People notice." They left, but the encounter left a mark. That night, I couldn't sleep, the weight of their words pressing down. Marcus was quiet too, staring at the ceiling as we lay side by side in his bed. "We can't let them win," he said finally. "But I don't know how to fight this." The next day, Lila called, her voice urgent. "Elliot, there's a town meeting tomorrow. They're talking about community standards. I think it's about you and Marcus." My heart sank. "What do we do?" "Come to the meeting," she said. "Don't hide. Show them you're not afraid." I told Marcus, expecting him to push back, but he nodded. "She's right. We need to face this." The meeting was held in the community center, a low brick building packed with locals. Marcus and I walked in together, our shoulders brushing, heads held high. The room went quiet as we sat down. Sheriff Carter was there, along with the bearded guy. Tom, I'd learned his name was, and dozens of others, some curious, some hostile. The discussion started innocently enough. Road repairs, a new park. But then Tom stood up. "I want to talk about something else," he said, his voice loud. "We've got folks here who don't respect how we do things, living in ways that don't belong." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. My stomach churned, but Marcus's hand found mine under the table, grounding me. I stood, my voice shaking but clear. "If you're talking about us, say it. We're not hiding." The room erupted, some shouting in support, others in anger. Sheriff Carter raised a hand for silence. "This town's about community," he said. "Live your lives, but respect your neighbors." It wasn't a win, but it wasn't a loss either. As we left, a few people nodded at us, their faces kind. Others turned away. Outside, Marcus pulled me close, his breath warm against my ear. "We did it," he whispered. "We showed up." The weeks that followed were a delicate balance. The town didn't change overnight. Some doors stayed closed, some stairs lingered, but there were glimmers of hope. A woman at the diner offered us a free slice of pie one night, her smile genuine. A kid at the hardware store asked Marcus for help fixing his bike. No judgment in his eyes. Small victories, but they mattered. Marcus and I grew closer, our lives intertwining in ways I hadn't dared imagine. We cooked together, fished together, sat on his porch watching the stars. But the fear never fully left. Every creak in the night made me wonder if another note was coming, or worse. One morning, I found Marcus outside, staring at a new note taped to his truck. "Leave," just one word, but it hit like a punch. He crumpled it, his face tight with anger. "I'm done running," he said. "This is my home." I nodded, my resolve hardening. "Mine too." We decided to fight back. Not with fists, but with presence. We started hosting barbecues, inviting neighbors who'd shown us kindness. Lila came, bringing her infectious laugh and a few friends from town. Slowly, people saw us not as the new guys, but as Elliot and Marcus, two people trying to build a life. One evening, as summer faded into fall, we went back to the lake. The air was crisp, the water still as glass. We didn't fish this time. We just sat in the boat, our hands clasped, the world quiet around us. "You know," Marcus said, his voice soft. "I never thought I'd find this. Someone who'd stay no matter what." I leaned against him, my head on his shoulder. "I didn't either. But I'm glad it's you." He turned to me, his eyes bright. "I love you, Elliot." The words settled into me, warm and certain. "I love you too," I said, and for the first time, I wasn't afraid to mean it. As we rowed back to shore, the sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and pink. The town wasn't perfect. There'd always be voices that didn't understand, but we'd carved out a space for ourselves. A space to be us, to love without hiding. Back at the dock, Marcus pulled me into a kiss, soft and sure, the lake stretching out behind us. For the first time, I felt free. Not just from fear, but to be who I was with him. The future wasn't certain, but it was ours, and that was enough.